The revocable living trust only controls what it owns, only controls what's inside that treasure chest. So you have to give that trust, you have to make it own your assets. So with a home, this is the most common example. We retitle the home into the name of the trust. For bank accounts, you may want to consider opening a bank account in the name of the trust and funding it. You don't have to put all your assets in that bank account, but you may want to put it enough that potentially your family, think of it as an emergency fund, would be able to pay for, your final wishes, may be able to keep the lights on, pay for groceries, pay for rent, what have you. And then getting into a little bit more advanced with brokerage accounts, there are some tax planning strategies. We would want to bring in a financial planner if this is a concern or a consideration, to see if it would make sense for the revocable trust to own the brokerage account. Now, with all that said, there are ways to completely avoid the probate process, even without a revocable living trust, even without a will. And I want you to be aware of that you don't necessarily need to get this foundational estate plan in place to do that. And those are called beneficiary designations or transfer on death certificates. Unfortunately for real estate in Massachusetts, we can't do that. Some states like Texas or Florida have what's called ladybird deeds that you can essentially do a transfer on death when someone passes. We don't have that in Massachusetts, but we do have something similar for bank accounts, life insurance policies, retirement accounts, some of those fungible items or non-fungible, right? It's late on a Friday, that is essentially monetary. So bank accounts, you can put in transfer and death designations to, as soon as you pass away, that person would just have to come to the bank with the certificate of death, and they'd be able to transfer those funds. With life insurance, you would want to name the beneficiaries of those policies. Same with retirement accounts. If you do that, it's going to avoid the probate process altogether. It's not part of your probate estate. If you do not know who you want to name or who to transfer that to, then it might make sense to name the trust as the beneficiary of those policies. It can just get a little bit complicated with retirement accounts, whether you're making something that wasn't taxable, turning it taxable, which is why we might want to bring in a CPA or financial planner if your estate is of a certain size, to make sure we're not accidentally causing taxation when we didn't need to. Because coming from the government as a former IRS trial attorney, no one wants to pay the government extra money when they don't have to, and I don't blame you. With that said, part of my foundational planning is I do provide some trust funding assistance. Usually it's not economical for my clients for me to go open the bank accounts in their name, but for transferring deeds, it usually does make sense to have me make sure that the deed at least is transferred over. Now, you don't have to do this all in one shot. You don't have to do this all in one day, in 1 week. Some of this stuff can take time, and even though there's always the existential threat of something, happening when you're not planning for it, and you want to be proactive. Some of my clients come back to me after 6 months, after a year, and that's the time that they want to start to move assets, or maybe they move a home and they want to transfer the new home or a rental property they bought. All that makes sense. Those kind of big life events are usually when the light bulb goes off of it's time to update the estate plan. Lastly, and I want you to think about is a little bit different approach about how I take my planning. So because I was a business attorney, a trial attorney, because this is a second career and it was active duty, I think I bring a little bit different mindset to my planning approach. I have a bias towards action and practicality. Again, as a stack of legal papers is not going to do you much good if your spouse or your loved ones can't access the bank accounts. If you pass away on the 30th, it's the first and the mortgage is due. What good is the will that says everything goes to, a loved one, but then that loved one can't actually access a bank account without going through the probate process, even if they have the legal authority to. So we talk about the practicality. I provide you with a planner that doesn't just talk about, maybe how you want a memorial service, or a funeral plot, or cremation, or the list is kind of endless. But it also talks about digital passwords, about how to access bank accounts, which banks do you even have all your accounts at. We're kind of leaving breadcrumbs, excuse me, for the loved ones that have to pick up the pieces when they're already grieving. If you've been through a probate process already because of a spouse or a loved one, you know it can be a little bit, it's definitely stressful, it's challenging, and it's time consuming when you're already grieving, and when you should be focused on that grieving. The last thing you want to do is get on the phone with a bank for 3 or 4 hours and then for them to deny you access, or a brokerage account that the descendant had that was just doing some trading, and now there's $50,000 sitting in that account. Mix in if your loved one or anyone in your life is a business owner, and it can get complicated pretty quickly. So I like to talk through that practicality of what it means. And then lastly, it's a final gift you're leaving to your loved ones. That same way I talked about that those advanced directives at end of life care, you're giving them not just the authority to take care of these things, but you're taking that weight off their shoulders by telling them exactly what you want, so they don't have to think through the process and guess. They kind of already know the steps that you would have wanted seen done, so that they don't feel like they're making decisions, on for you, but you've already made them and they're just implementing them. And I think that alone is an extremely helpful exercise. Alrighty, so a little bit about me. I don't think I said this in the beginning, but this isn't a sales pitch by any means. I don't even think I have an offer in this deck, but I just want you to know a little bit more about me and the way I work, in case you do want to work together. Sorry, my dog is popping up in the screen here. So traditionally, hourly billings with phones and phone call charges, opaque costs. Yeah. I don't practice that way. I'm a solo attorney. I work from home, so I keep a low overhead. I pass that savings directly on to my clients. At the end of the day, I just want to help people, and I'm happy to help. I offer flat fee packages. I put those right on my website. If you want to review them, I might have a slide in here after that kind of shows those prices. Generally speaking, 10 weeks is a good average. If you were to call me today, and 10 weeks from now we had the plan done. I've done plans in as little as 2 weeks. I have some that are going on 6 or 7 months. Not because they're complicated, just because I understand it takes a lot of time, and it can be stressful. So yep, 10 weeks signing and funding. The biggest way that I prefer to do my estate planning is by providing the education up front, giving you the informed information that you need to make these decisions. I, of course, can and will advise you on what I think is best for you. But at the end of the day, this is extremely personal to you. This is your life, your assets, your family. I want you to be empowered to make the decisions on how you want to see things. So I provide a lot of education up front, which can move to a streamlined design meeting where we actually sit down and go through everything together, and then we move to funding and signing. Some of the prices that I have to offer, these again are right on my website. I like to be transparent. It's one of my core values, in case you need it to know. If I encourage you to interview a couple of attorneys to find the right fit for one you enjoy working with. And sometimes, to be frank, price is a factor when you're looking at other estate planning attorneys, and I completely understand that. If you need help funding, I help fund. If we want to do a la carte services, if you need a plan in place, I'm happy to do so. 24 minutes. I went a little bit over. So the last thing I am going to do is I will just share, I think I called it a handout, share handout, my calendar link. It's free, no obligations. You can pick 15 or 30 minutes and I'll give you a call and we can chat. At the end of the day, I'm happy to answer questions one-on-one, make sure you have the information you need to make an informed decision. Alrighty, I'll take a look at the chat. I am recording, so I won't say your name, but great presentation. You are welcome. Thank you for coming. And I'll leave it for about 1 more minute, since I'm already 4 minutes over what I promised of 20 minutes, if you have any specific questions. Alrighty. Well, thank you for joining. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks. Bye-bye.